In the year 1347, a silent, unseen killer began its journey westward. Death crawled ashore in Europe, carried on the winds and the waves, an invisible enemy poised to unleash devastation. It was hidden within the bellies of merchant ships arriving from the east, those creaking wooden vessels that connected the world. Unbeknownst to the sailors and merchants, they carried a far more sinister cargo than spices and silks: rats, the ubiquitous companions of seafarers, and their unwelcome passengers. Fleas brimming with plague, tiny parasites carrying a disease that would reshape the world. This deadly combination ignited a wildfire that would consume nearly half the continent's people. The Black Death was about to be unleashed upon an unsuspecting population. No one was ready. Town criers, the news broadcasters of their day, whispered of a mysterious sickness, a pestilence unlike any seen before. It was a horror that began with fevers and shivers, the body's defences overwhelmed by the rapidly spreading infection. Then blackened skin, a gruesome sign of the disease taking hold, a visible manifestation of the internal decay. And finally, the stench of death. The air itself seemed to carry the scent of mortality, a constant reminder of the plague's relentless advance. Some called it the Great Pestilence, a term that barely captured the scale of the disaster. We know it as the Black Death, a name that evokes the terror and devastation it wrought. As the plague swept through Italy, leaving a trail of death and despair in its wake, then France, its tendrils reaching into every corner of the kingdom, then England and beyond, panic reigned. Society began to unravel as people desperately sought to escape the invisible enemy. Whole villages vanished almost overnight, their populations decimated by the relentless disease. The air thickened with dread, a palpable sense of impending doom. Priests and doctors, powerless against the plague's onslaught, fled in terror or fell victim themselves. The traditional sources of comfort and healing offered no solace. Coffins ran out, a grim testament to the sheer scale of the mortality. Mass graves gaped in the earth, overflowing with the bodies of the dead. Here's a grim fact. It wasn't just the sick who died. Cats and dogs were blamed and slaughtered, seen as agents of the disease in desperate hope of halting the spread. But nobody understood germ theory. The true cause of the disease remained a mystery, and the killing did nothing. The Black Death didn't just harvest bodies, it changed Europe forever. It was a cataclysm that shattered the existing social, economic and religious order. With so many gone, workers became precious, their labour in high demand, and the old feudal order began to crumble. Wages rose as the surviving workforce gained unprecedented bargaining power. The seeds of the modern world were unwittingly sown in that darkness, a new economic landscape emerging from the ashes of the old. But the terror lingered, a deep-seated fear that permeated every aspect of life. Some believed it was punishment from God, a divine reckoning for the sins of humanity. Others blamed outsiders, scapegoating vulnerable groups and fueling waves of violence and persecution. Fear and ignorance combined to create a climate of suspicion and hatred. Fear, after all, can be just as contagious as any disease, spreading rapidly through communities and poisoning relationships. By 1351, the worst had passed. The initial wave of the Black Death had subsided, but the scars would never truly heal. The trauma of the plague would linger for generations. Europe's population had been slashed by as much as 60% in some places, leaving vast swathes of land deserted and communities shattered. Art and literature grew darker, reflecting the pervasive sense of loss and mortality. Superstitions found deep roots, as people sought explanations and protection in a world that suddenly seemed unpredictable and dangerous. And here's a final, chilling fact. Outbreaks of plague would haunt Europe for centuries after, a recurring nightmare that kept the memory of the Black Death alive. The Black Death wasn't a single moment in time, but a shadow that stretched across generations, shaping the course of European history in profound and lasting ways. So next time you walk old cobbled streets, feel the weight of history beneath your feet and spare a thought for those lost to the plague, the countless lives extinguished by this devastating disease. Remember also the resilience of those who endured, the survivors who rebuilt their lives and communities in the face of unimaginable loss. Darkness came, threatening to engulf everything, but Europe survived, forever changed, but ultimately unbroken.